Year 2029. The view of the Earth will be something like this. After hundreds of years, some pandemics will also try to wipe out human civilization from our planet, meaning that with each passing day, our life on Earth is reaching a point where we will have only two options: either we stay on this planet and perish, or we fight against nature to save this fragile life. Earth cannot be our home forever. It's not easy to accept, but it's the truth. One day, we will have to leave this planet, and we need to start preparing for that right now because we have no time left. But leaving Earth just like that won't be easy either, because the resources we have here won't be easily found anywhere else. So then, with limited resources, how exactly will we be able to sustain ourselves on another planet? How many people would we need to build a new civilization? And suppose we build a colony beyond Earth, what problems would human civilization have to face there? How will they all survive there, so far from home, without any support? The answers to all these questions are in our video today. So, hello friends, I am your host. How will they do it? The answers to all these questions are in our video today. So, hello friends, I am your friend Shashi, and today's video will take you on a journey to a world of the future where we are struggling to survive on Mars. Yes, Mars is the only planet near Earth that gives us a new hope for life. It orbits the Sun just beyond Earth. This planet is quite similar to Earth. It is the fourth planet from the Sun and the seventh largest planet in our solar system. This bright red planet, floating in the darkness of space, has always attracted humans towards it. It is said that even though today this planet is completely cold and deserted, like an endless desert, but there was a time, millions of years ago, when rivers used to flow here just like on Earth. The rising waves of the sea used to try to touch the shores, and perhaps there was life here too. Because of some mysterious circumstances, everything here was destroyed. But can we humans make everything here like it was before? Well, the idea isn't bad, and we humans have been thinking about it for a long time. Because compared to searching for another planet outside the solar system and settling there, going to Mars would be more economical. It's also close by, and even if we don't know everything about it, we definitely know a lot. SpaceX has also claimed that they are building such interplanetary spacecrafts that will be able to take at least 100 people to Mars. The owner of the company, Elon Musk, says that they are building a fleet of such spacecrafts, which will keep delivering resources from Earth to the people on Mars for some time. But in the end, can these fantasies actually be implemented in the real world? If you look at it, to a large extent, no, because before going to Mars or sending a human settlement there, we will have to think deeply about many issues. There are many issues that will need to be solved, such as the intense radiation there, toxic soil, low gravity, low temperature, and more. There are many kinds of difficulties there, like severe dust storms and how to deal with them. We should have a plan for this before we get there, and this will only be the beginning. It will take us decades to build a vehicle that can land properly on Mars and also return to Earth. Coming back is also important, because no one would want to get stuck in that cold red desert just for the sake of fantasies, especially billions of kilometers away from Earth. But let's take a journey today, a thought experiment in which we imagine that everything is perfect. And we've finally decided that we're going to colonize Mars, so how will things work there? Let's find out. Recently, scientists published a study, the topic of which was the minimum number of people needed to settle on another planet. Jean-Marc Salotti published this study in the Scientific Reports Journal on June 16, 2020. In this, they tried to find out how we can colonize a new planet. This study was published in the Scientific Reports Journal. In this, they tried to find out how we can colonize a new planet. How many resources would we need there? How would the colony function, and who would lead it? How will people work there, and how much time will all this take? And most importantly, how many people will we need to sustain ourselves there? So let's try to find the answers to all these questions based on this study. Now imagine that you have arrived in a wonderful future. Well, that's not going to happen at all, because the author of the study has said that the future of our Earth is going to be very terrifying. A future so frightening that just thinking about it would scare everyone. There will definitely be wars fought by artificial intelligence and humans. Apart from this, there will be many such natural, catastrophic, unfortunate events that will disrupt life on Earth. We will only have two options left: to settle on Mars or some other planet. Unfortunately, if that happens, forget about coming back to Earth or getting supplies from Earth, because at that time, Earth itself will be struggling for survival. Now, the settlers who leave for another planet will have to manage everything on their own somehow. And in such circumstances, some conditions and problems will also arise for us. For example, we don't know how well the people in the colony will be able to work together with each other. What effect will the conditions there have on their mental state, and will they also communicate like normal humans there? Even there, they will want to share their time and resources with others. One thing is for sure, we humans are experts at ruining our own things, whether it's because of greed or hunger for power. So how to extract? Before we go to Mars, we need to pay attention to organizational issues there. What about the equipment? If we start panicking there, we won't have enough time to think about all these things. We won't have the chance to prepare for decades, nor will we have a large amount of initial resources and equipment. And the human factor is so unpredictable that you can't plan it step by step. People react differently according to situations, and their behavior also keeps changing. That's why the chances of us surviving and settling on another planet are very low. But if we want to save human civilization, then we have to survive somehow. And in this case, Jean-Marc has explained some things very well, which will have a deep impact on our survival. However, these are just variables of mathematical equations, in which the first variable is the availability of local resources, meaning where we are going to settle. For example, on Mars, how many resources will be available for us there, like water, oxygen, and other useful chemical elements? These resources should not only be easily available on that planet, but they should also be easy to use. And here, our biggest good fortune is that we won't have to do this work from scratch. We already know a lot about Mars, about the conditions on Mars. What resources will be available for us there, and how will we be able to extract and use them for agriculture and industrial production? Those who go to Mars will be lucky, because we Earthlings have published numerous research papers, reports, and books about Mars. They tell us what is available to us on Mars. We already know where we are going and what dangers are waiting for us in that unknown world. For example, we know that we can extract gases from the atmosphere of Mars and minerals from its soil. On Mars, we will easily find iron, glass, and even organic compounds. But the biggest problem we will face here is the service life of the equipment we will be starting out with on Mars. We will have to extract as much material as possible before our equipment and tools break down or get damaged. Keeping them in good condition will become the most important thing. The second thing will be production capacity, or the speed of work. We will have a list of equipment and a deadline, after which all those pieces of equipment will break down, and the settlers will have to do enough work within that deadline so that they can make those pieces of equipment again and also produce some useful products. If that doesn't happen, they won't be able to survive there. Besides that, people's willingness to share will also be very important there. Imagine that each settler is trying to survive on Mars separately. All those people are doing their own work themselves. They are trying to build the whole system on their own. Everyone is working to produce their own water and electricity. You all must have seen in the Martian movie how difficult this can be for humans. Handling so much burden and pressure is not not easy for every Martian. It won't be easy to do, and for this we will have to increase the number of people going to Mars. We will have to build a large colony where every Martian plays their part like one component in a car, so the whole car keeps running. That colony shouldn't be so small that it can't even meet its own needs, and it shouldn't be so big that the colony collapses under the weight of its own needs. So for this, we'll need a balanced number of Martian settlers, and now we'll have to calculate that number, and it will depend on several factors. On the resources available on Mars, on the weather there, and besides that, there are many other factors as well. But generally speaking, we can also calculate this number using a mathematical function. If you want to see those mathematical functions, we've given the link to the article in the description. You can read it if you're interested. But in the article, 5 areas have been described to calculate this number: ecosystem management, energy production, industry, buildings, and human factor. For example, we will have to send experts from each area there, like some who manage the ecosystem, some who are experts in energy production, some who will handle industrial production, some people will develop infrastructure, and for the human factor, doctors, teachers for children's education, and some experts for sports and music will also be sent. Basically, whatever is necessary to run a different world, we will have to send all of that to Mars. And according to the calculations, that number came out to be 110 people. Yes, 110 people will be needed to build a new colony on Mars so that they can always survive there. Not more than this and not less than this either. The more people there are, the harder it becomes to predict the outcome. This is a rough estimate which includes some assumptions and some uncertainties as well. No plan is perfect, but still, this number will be very useful for us. Now scientists know how many people they will have to send to Mars in the first attempt. But now the thing is, if in the beginning people live in a colony of 110 people on Mars, if people live in it, will we have to build a lot of colonies there? If that happens, then we humans will start fighting among ourselves for resources there. And we already said in the beginning that we humans are very good at messing things up. Anyway, there are many more questions besides this. With recent space technology advancements and the ambitious plans of space agencies like SpaceX and NASA to colonize Mars, the idea now seems much more like a real possibility than just a beautiful dream. But will colonizing Mars be a smart move for humanity, or is it one of those dumb ideas that we shouldn't pursue? The prospect of becoming a multi-planetary species definitely excites us, but there are several reasons that raise the question, is Mars really the best choice for human colonization? The planet's hostile environment, lack of resources, and the immense cost and risk make settling on Mars a huge challenge. In this video, we will explore why colonizing Mars might not be as brilliant an idea as we think. We will discuss in detail the scientific, ethical, and practical challenges involved in creating a human colony on the red planet. And we will try to understand whether it would be better to put our efforts here on Earth or to move towards Mars. On this mysterious journey to Mars, we will critically evaluate the dream of Mars colonization and find out whether humanity's future is on the right path. Mars hostile environment. The first reason that obviously makes the idea of colonizing Mars a bad idea is the planet's incredibly hostile environment. Mars may look a bit like Earth in photos, but the reality is that Mars is extremely dangerous, which presents major challenges for human survival. Mars is a cold planet where the average surface temperature stays around -62 degrees Celsius. At night, this temperature drops even further, going down to around -125 degrees Celsius. Especially near its polar areas, it will be very difficult to maintain a habitable environment for humans in such extreme temperatures. In this cold world, we will need a lot of energy to keep ourselves warm and to protect our equipment from freezing. Besides this, compared to Earth, Mars has a very thin atmosphere, which is mostly made up of carbon dioxide. Traces of oxygen and nitrogen are present in very small amounts. The atmospheric pressure on Mars is less than 1% of Earth's. This makes the conditions here even more challenging. Without a spacesuit, no human would be able to roam freely freely on this planet. To create a breathable environment, sealed habitats will be needed in which the life support system will produce oxygen and maintain air pressure. This makes the colonization effort even more complex and costly. We know that on Earth, water is the basis of our life. But on Mars, there is a severe shortage of liquid water. Most of the water on Mars is in the form of ice or has mixed with the soil there. Extracting this water will be a big challenge in itself, which will require advanced technology and a great deal of energy. Without a reliable water source, sustaining a human colony would be almost impossible. Even if we are able to meet the energy needs of the Mars colony, the challenges of living on Mars are still not over. Mars has neither a global magnetic field nor a thick atmosphere to protect our people there from cosmic radiation and solar particles. This radiation will create a serious health issue for humans and increase the risk of cancer among the colony residents. The cancer risk will increase and the radiation can damage their tissues, causing neurological effects and serious changes in their DNA. To protect people from radiation, habitats will have to be built underground or covered with thick layers of regolith, which makes the difficulty and expense of building a colony on Mars even higher. So how would humans survive on Mars under such conditions? Living on Mars will bring a new challenge every day. So far, we've only talked about the conditions on Mars. But even worse than that are the terrifying natural disasters that can occur there. Mars is known for its massive dust storms, which can cover the entire planet. These can last for weeks or even months. These storms even block sunlight reaching Mars. Because of this, the effectiveness of solar panels decreases and power generation becomes difficult. The fine dust flying in these storms can get into our equipment and habitats, creating mechanical problems. And for humans, it can also create problems like difficulty in breathing. Looking at these challenges, it's clear that Mars is still far from being an ideal environment for humans to live in. The planet's extreme conditions make living here very difficult and dangerous. And to deal with these, we would need such advanced technology and resource investment, which doesn't seem realistic in the near future. Apart from environmental challenges, the idea of colonizing Mars also comes with immense costs and risks which need to be considered carefully. Establishing human presence on the red planet demands a massive investment in terms of resources, time, and money, and there is no guarantee of success. Sending humans to Mars and building a self-sustaining colony there would be one of the most expensive endeavors in human history. Estimates for a crewed mission range from tens of billions to hundreds of billions of dollars. This will also depend on the scale and scope of the mission, but building here will require even more funding, as well as the development of technologies and infrastructure. Most of this cost will be spent by governments, private companies, or through collaboration between both. But here on our Earth, we also have many serious issues like climate change, poverty, and healthcare. Some people argue that these funds could be better used to address these problems. Investing in Mars colonization will divert resources from places where they are needed more, which makes us wonder whether this would even be fair to us on Earth. Building a colony on Mars will also demand the development of advanced technologies that either do not yet exist or are still in the very early stages of development. Technical hurdles like life support systems, radiation shielding, sustainable agriculture, and waste management are quite significant, and we can't move forward at all without thinking them through. It could take years to develop these technologies, and even then, there is no guarantee of success. It could even take decades. Transporting equipment, supplies, and people to Mars won't be possible without multiple launches and a robust supply chain where each launch will cost millions of dollars. If there is any failure or delay in the supply chain, it will become a major risk for the survival of the colony. This shows how living on Mars will make human life uncertain. Living on Mars is still a distant dream, but even reaching Mars will bring us many challenges. The journey to Mars or living on this planet will put astronauts' health at risk. The trip to Mars will take 69 months. During this trip, astronauts will be directly exposed to microgravity and cosmic radiation. Staying in microgravity for such a long time will cause muscle loss, bone loss, and other health issues, while radiation exposure will increase the risk of cancer. Even after landing on Mars, astronauts will have to face radiation, extreme temperatures, loneliness, and the psychological challenges of staying in one place for a long time. The lack of medical facilities and the difficulty of returning to Earth in an emergency make these risks even more serious. There are several ethical concerns associated with the idea of Mars colonization, and one major concern is the impact of human settlements on the Martian environment. Mars is still barren, where we have not yet found any signs of life, but along with humans, other organisms like bacteria will also reach Mars. For one, we don't know how these might mutate in the Martian environment and what kind of threat they could pose to us. And besides this, they will also contaminate the Martian environment, which could create major problems for our future scientific research. Also, sending humans to a planet where there is no guarantee of survival raises an ethical question as well. Some people argue that sending people into such a dangerous and uncertain environment would be irresponsible. At the same time, once humans reach Mars, they will start exploiting its resources as well. Is it justified to make so many sacrifices? One of the biggest fundamental criticisms of Mars colonization is the lack of a clear and compelling purpose. Although the idea of becoming a multiplanetary species sounds appealing, it is unclear what the practical benefit of Mars colonization would be. Compared to Earth, Mars does not have the resources and conditions needed to support a large-scale human civilization for a long time, and there is no point in establishing a permanent presence in such a place. Some people say that the primary motive of Mars colonization is only symbolic. The desire to prove that human civilization can achieve something big and ambitious. But without a clear and feasible goal, it's very difficult to justify the immense cost and risk of this endeavor. Considering these things, it's important to think about whether our efforts and resources could be used better somewhere else. Instead of focusing on Mars colonization, we could invest in addressing Earth's challenges or in space exploration, other settlements, or exploring feasible options. Alternative options for space exploration. Despite so many drawbacks of Mars colonization, we have several alternatives for space exploration and settlements that are more feasible in the near future and can also provide us with immediate benefits. A promising alternative to Mars colonization is establishing a human presence on our moon. The moon is quite close to Earth, which makes reaching it easier and more cost-effective. A trip to the moon takes only a few days, while reaching Mars takes us 69 months. Because it's so close, supplying and supporting a lunar colony becomes much easier, and many of the risks associated with long-duration space travel are also greatly reduced. The moon also offers us valuable resources like water ice, which can be used to make drinking water, oxygen, and rocket fuel. A lunar colony can serve as a stepping stone for exploring Mars and other planets in the future. Another alternative is to make space stations habitable either in Earth's orbit or in other places in the solar system, such as Lagrange points. These space stations can be a good platform for scientific research, manufacturing, and tourism, and can also serve as a base for missions to the Moon and Mars and for broader space exploration. If you look at it, space stations have many more advantages over planetary colonies. They can be located in environments where temperatures are stable and constant sunlight is available, which is essential for solar power generation and energy needs. They can also be easily resupplied and maintained, which reduces many of the risks associated with long-duration space missions. Instead of colonizing planets, we can also focus on mining asteroids to extract valuable resources. Many asteroids are rich in metals and minerals like iron, nickel, platinum, and gold, which can be used for manufacturing and construction. Asteroid mining can provide a sustainable source of raw materials for space exploration and can also reduce reliance on Earth-based resources. This can help prevent deforestation and other types of exploitation on Earth. Asteroid mining can help develop essential technologies and infrastructure for future space colonization, such as in situ resource utilization and advanced propulsion systems. Finally, some people believe that our efforts and resources could be used to address Earth's challenges instead of the Mars colonization project. So this can also make Earth better. From climate change and the environment to poverty and inequality, there are many issues that need attention. By focusing on Earth, we can build a better society, which will be beneficial for all of humanity. Investing in renewable energy, conservation, and social programs can be more impactful for the well-being of our planet and its inhabitants than colonizing Mars. In conclusion, the idea of colonizing Mars has captured the imagination of many people, but it is important that we take a step back and first critically evaluate whether this is the right path for humanity. Obstacles like Mars' extreme temperatures, thin atmosphere, lack of liquid water, and radiation exposure make it very difficult and challenging to build a sustainable colony there. Apart from this, there are also ethical concerns about the impact of human settlements on Mars's environment and the potential exploitation of its resources. Have you ever wondered how dangerous Mars could actually be as we dream of making it our second home? That red planet for which space agencies are spending billions of dollars and people like Elon Musk are working day and night. There are some forces present there that can destroy all our missions in an instant. Mars, that mysterious red sphere, has been attracting humans for centuries. In ancient civilizations, it was considered a symbol of power and mystery. The ancient Romans regarded it as Mars, the god of war, while the Babylonians associated its blood-like color with bad omens and war. The ancient Egyptians also worshipped it as a deity. Whereas in Indian astrology, it is regarded as Mangal, a symbol of bravery and energy. But today, when we have come very close to it, we are realizing that Mars is not only beautiful, but also dangerous and frightening. Its atmosphere is only 1% of Earth's, and the temperature here drops down to -60 degrees Celsius. Even at night, it drops even further and can reach as low as -140 degrees. The surface of Mars is like a barren desert where you'll find towering rock formations and the world's largest volcano, Olympus Mons. But the real power of Mars lies in its environment, which is so hostile that even our strongest missions can kneel before it. That dust storm of 1971 wasn't the only incident. These storms hit Mars every few years. Because of these, many of our mechanical warriors have been buried in its red soil. And when these storms come, they take over the entire planet. But these sandstorms are just the beginning. There are many such forces on the surface of Mars that can become the biggest threat to our missions and future colonies. In today's journey to Mars, we will look at those forces and see how big a challenge they really are for humanity. Let's start by talking about Mars's biggest and most terrifying weapon. Its mega dust storms in 2018 took down NASA's Opportunity rover, a warrior of ours that worked tirelessly on the surface of Mars for 15 years. But it fell victim to just such a storm so massive that it covered more than half of Mars. Opportunity's solar panels were covered with dust and it was never able to charge again. As a result, our $1 billion mission came to an end forever. Just from dust accumulating on the solar panels, these storms on Mars are completely different from the storms that come on Earth. On Earth, storms are formed by water and air. But the atmosphere of Mars is so thin that even if the wind speed is 100 kilometers per hour, you won't see much effect. But Martian dust is so fine that it mixes with the wind and plunges the entire planet into darkness. The dust on Mars is so fine that it can get into the smallest places and cause damage. It can get into your equipment, the solar panels of your machinery, and even into the joints of your spacesuit, causing damage. In 2001, a storm on Mars was so massive that it increased the planet's global temperature by up to 30 degrees. These storms lasted for months, and even scientists had to wait for weeks for the dust to settle so they could see the surface of Mars. If we build a colony on Mars, what effect will these storms have on our colony? The solar panels we install there will become useless, visibility will drop to zero, and if these storms come without any warning, then that's even worse. The lives of astronauts working there could also be at risk, and staying outside for longer will increase the danger of radiation even more. Because of the dust, the equipment and machines will get damaged. Space agencies like NASA and ESA are struggling with this problem. Dust-resistant materials, electrostatic cleaning systems, and underground habitats are being considered so that we can somehow fight against these forces of Mars. But so far, we haven't found any perfect solution. The dust storms on Mars are so unpredictable that they can come at any time, and when they do, they cause complete devastation. The second major force on Mars is radiation. On Earth, we are protected from cosmic rays and solar radiation because of the magnetic field and its thick atmosphere. But Mars lost its magnetic field millions of years ago. Scientists believe that this happened when its core started to cool down. Since then, its magnetic field started to decay. After the magnetic field disappeared, its atmosphere also doesn't provide any protection here. The Martian atmosphere is so thin that it can't block radiation. Because of this, the deadly radiation from the sun on the surface of Mars is about 700 times higher than on Earth. NASA's Curiosity rover studied radiation levels on Mars between 2012 and 2013. The results were shocking. The amount of radiation received on Mars in a single day is more than what Earth receives in an entire year. If a person stays in colonies built on Mars without protection, they could develop cancer, DNA damage, and other serious diseases within just a few months. This radiation is dangerous not only for humans, but also for the spacecraft we send. Because of it, glitches can occur in electronic systems, as happened with the Mars Odyssey orbiter in 2003 when a solar flare temporarily damaged its instruments. We know that radiation is the biggest challenge for future colonies on Mars, and to deal with this, NASA and ESA are working on lead-lined suits, radiation shields, and underground bunkers. Some scientists suggest that Mars's lava tubes, which are natural underground caves on Mars, can be used for habitation because they can provide us with some protection from radiation. But these solutions are expensive and not completely effective either. Just like what happened on Earth in 1869 due to the Carrington event solar flare, if a similar solar flare hits Mars, all our technology will fail in the same way. The temperature on Mars is also not any less dangerous. During the day, it can get as warm as 20 degrees Celsius, but at night, the temperature drops to minus 140 degrees Celsius. This extreme temperature swing is dangerous for both humans and machines. Our rovers like Perseverance have to be equipped with thermal blankets, radioisotope heaters, and advanced insulation, and only then can they operate in these extreme temperatures on Mars. But for a colony on Mars, it's impossible to protect every piece of equipment like this. Space suits for humans will have to be designed in such a way that they can withstand both heat and cold. But if any suit fails, the astronaut's life will instantly be in danger. Apart from this, chemicals like chlorates are also found in Martian soil, which become even more dangerous in the cold. Chlorates release pure oxygen. We know that it is poisonous, but apart from that, it will also corrode our equipment, meaning oxygen can cause equipment to rust. In 2008, the Phoenix lander discovered this chemical, and since then, scientists have been concerned about how big a threat it could pose to Mars colonies. This is a big headache for space agencies because on Mars, we will have to protect even the smallest things. Mars' atmospheric pressure is only 0.6% of Earth's. This means that if an astronaut goes outside without a spacesuit, their blood will start boiling immediately. Because of the low pressure, there's not only a lack of oxygen, but liquid water also can't stay on its surface. And that's why water on Mars is found only in the form of ice or vapor. This low pressure will make construction on Mars even more difficult. We will have to make our habitat strong enough to withstand this pressure difference. Even a small leak can put the entire habitat at risk. In 1999, NASA's Mars Climate Orbiter crashed because of an incorrect calculation of this low pressure. That mission had an error between metric and imperial units, but the low pressure made that mistake even more deadly. That's why Mars's low pressure is a force that cannot be ignored. The surface of Mars isn't just an endless desert of sand and rocks. Mars also experiences Marsquakes, that is, earthquakes. NASA's InSight mission recorded more than 1,300 Marsquakes on Mars from 2018 to 2022. The largest Marsquake was a 4.7 magnitude, which is actually small compared to earthquakes on Earth. But for a colony, this could be very dangerous. Apart from this, Mars has volcanoes like Olympus Mons, which is the largest volcano in the solar system. Even though it is not active right now, but their geological history shows that the Martian surface is not completely stable. Underground lava tubes, voids, and sinkholes could be hidden beneath its surface, which is very dangerous for the construction of a Martian colony. If a habitat is built in a place where the ground itself is not stable, the structure could collapse. Apart from this, landslides and avalanches have also been observed on the surface of Mars. In 2019, the Curiosity rover took a picture of a landslide near Valles Marineris. These landslides are also no less dangerous on Mars. Space agencies will have to study the surface of Mars more deeply so that safe zones can be identified on Mars. These hostile forces on Mars are not just physical but psychological as well. The astronauts living on Mars, who will be about 200 million kilometers away from Earth, will feel very lonely, and a 6 to 24 minute communication delay will make their frustration even worse, especially when they're in trouble. This means that if there's an emergency, immediate help from Earth won't be possible. Isolation, claustrophobia, and stress will have a negative impact on mental health. Staying in isolation for a long time can cause depression, anxiety, and interpersonal conflicts. So from this, we can understand that every day on Mars will be a battle for survival. NASA and other space agencies are working on this. But the isolation on Mars is so extreme that no training can fully prepare anyone for it. If any astronaut suffers a mental breakdown, they could become a threat to the entire colony. The shortage of resources on Mars is a major nightmare. On Earth, we get water, oxygen, and food easily, but on Mars, most of the water is present as ice in the polar ice caps or underground. The Perseverance rover conducted an experiment to extract oxygen from the Martian atmosphere in 2021, but producing enough oxygen for a colony is still a distant dream. In any emergency, these things cannot be supplied. On Earth, these things are available everywhere, but people living on Mars might not be so lucky. Growing food here is not easy either. Martian soil lacks nutrients, and perchlorates make it even more toxic. Farming can be done using hydroponics and controlled environments, but building and maintaining these systems will be very expensive. If any system fails, the entire colony could face starvation. Now the question is, can humanity overcome these challenges on Mars? NASA, SpaceX, ESA, and China's space agency are working day and night to colonize Mars. Elon Musk's dream is to establish a colony of 1 million people on Mars by 2050. But considering these horrors, how realistic does this dream seem to you? It's impossible to stop the sandstorms on Mars, but dust-resistant materials, electrostatic cleaning, and underground habitats could be solutions to these problems. Similarly, for radiation, lead-lined suits, bunkers, and lava tubes can be used. Likewise, we do have ways to fight Mars's harsh conditions, but despite all that, they are still incredibly powerful. That even a small mistake can put the entire colony's future at risk. The Columbia shuttle disaster in 2003 and the crash of the Mars Polar Lander in 1999, it reminds us that there is no margin for error in space exploration, and on Mars this risk will be even greater. Mars is not just a destination, it's not a place where we will find peace or where we can live without worries. Rather, it's a challenge that we will have to face every day. It's a place where the forces of nature test every human effort, but will we be able to overcome these forces, or will Mars always remain an unsolved mystery? What is your opinion on this? Be sure to let us know in the comments section. If you like this video, please like it and share it with your friends. For more informative videos like this, make sure to subscribe to our channel and turn on bell notifications. Friends, see you again soon with another informative video like this. Until then, stay curious, be happy, and goodbye.